Hello and welcome to Conversations with Ruth. I am Ruth. I am also known as Notorious RVG. During the time I worked with ACLU, I encountered legal aid attorneys and was always impressed with their dedication and good work. I realized that I do not know much about legal aid of North Carolina. I have wondered what legal aid really is. How is legal aid able to serve all those that are eligible for its services? That legal aid not only provides services in specific areas, but to target populations, such as veterans, seniors, Native Americans, and victims of trafficking. Equally important is what are the services legal aid provides? Well, to answer those questions, I ask that you join me in a series of interviews about getting to know legal aid of North Carolina. I promise you that I and you together, we will learn what legal aid is and what services it provides. Welcome. This is part of our series Conversations with Ruth. I am Ruth, and sometimes I am also called RVG. But really, I feel it's fair to tell you I prefer to be called Justice. Our conversation today is about advanced directives, wills, powers of attorney, healthcare power of attorneys, and living wills. Legal aid dedicates some of its limited resources to help individuals, especially seniors, self-determine what kind of health treatment they want, what they want for their property when they die. So we are going to talk about that today, and I am particularly interested in knowing what legal aid does when someone calls for issues concerning wills or their health care treatment. And today we are lucky to have Christopher Morden. Christopher is a partner with Monroe, Wallace, and Morden. Christopher, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I am delighted to have you here. I understand that you specialize in estates. You have handled some wills and powers of attorney for legal aid clients. So you probably are the best person to help me understand what legal aid does. And I think maybe we should first start with talking about why it's important for someone to have a power of attorney, a healthcare power of attorney. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Certainly. I think that powers of attorney are important because what I want people to do is to take the time really to name a series of people that will be there and ready to step in the event something should happen to them. And certainly on the healthcare power of attorney side, we want those agents to be named. That way, when a physician determines the person can no longer make or communicate a healthcare decision, they have already designated the person or persons that they want to step in and make those decisions. And same for the financial power of attorney. If you couldn't manage your finances anymore, we really want a series of people to be there to step in and take that over for you. Those powers of attorney really allow us to avoid being able to or having to go to court to get a guardian appointed for you. So if you didn't have these documents in place and you weren't competent to sign them at the time an event happened, then unfortunately your family or friends or family would be stuck in a position of having to go to court to get someone appointed a guardian for you. That way that guardian could then step in and make the decision. So the powers of attorney are really a way for you to designate who you want to serve in that role and hopefully avoid the guardianship.
I see. And really, from what you're saying, I guess it's natural for anyone to want a say-so in what happens to their bodies or their property.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that reflects in the fact that my clerk has researched this and found that over 2,500 individuals were helped by legal aid last year with this kind of service. That is impressive.
That's great.
And of course, I said legal aid has limited resources, and this is an area where they rely a lot in volunteer attorneys. Legal aid has, I understand, a special project called the Senior Law Project. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Sure. The Senior Law Project that Legal Aid handles is really designated or designed for North Carolinians age 60 and above.
I see.
That way, if someone should call in that age range and desiring healthcare power of attorney or last will and testament or financial power of attorney, any of those types of normal estate planning documents, this Senior Law Project will be able to assist them.
Okay. So if someone is over 60 and is facing perhaps medical intervention and is concerned about what you said, preparing this health care power of attorneys, and they call legal aid, what can they expect?
Well, the call is sort of triaged by legal aid and then referred out to either the senior law center or onto a volunteer attorney like myself.
I see. So, and this is only for people over 60, the Senior Law Project, as you said. So what happens if they are not 60, if they're younger than that?
Sure. It would be along the same lines. You know, the call is triaged by legal aid, and it's my understanding if they're facing a pending health crisis and there's some immediacy to the action, then a legal aid attorney will have a faster response time and be able to assist. In the cases that get referred to volunteers like me, the information that the legal aid client leaves is then passed on to the volunteer attorney, and we are asked then to reach out to the legal aid client.
And I think you said something that is probably clue. If there is an immediacy need, terminally ill or some crisis, medical crisis, legal aid responds then by having either their own attorneys handle it because of the time constraints. Yeah, we don't want, I imagine legal aid wants to make sure that people get their services when they need it.
Yes.
So, and how about wills? Is it this follows the same pattern? Wills for people over 60 will go to the Senior Law Project?
Whenever possible, yes, they'll go to the Senior Law Project or perhaps a volunteer attorney in some circumstances, but you're exactly correct.
So always the volunteers are there to assist us.
Right.
And does legal aid handle any wills for people below 60?
Yes, it would do the same thing. I mean, the Senior Law Center would not handle it, but legal aid and volunteer attorneys would be willing to step in and do that.
And legal aid attorneys will handle some wills. And I understand there's something about designating children or disabled people. Is that similar to a guardianship?
Somewhat similar. In North Carolina, the law allows for you to leave in your will your designation of who you would want to care for your minor child or children. And now, fortunately, we had a few years ago, we had a law change where if you have an adult disabled child, then you are also allowed to go in there into your will and put in a recommendation to the court about who you'd want to designate. So certainly in that regard, yes, the will would be an appropriate spot for you to put that information in. It's a little bit different from the healthcare or the financial power of attorney because you are not designating an agent or a guardian for yourself. You are designating that guardian for your minor child or children or adult disabled child.
Which could be of concerns to anyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when people contact legal aid, and they want one of those documents, the end result is that they get the document prepared by an attorney.
That's correct.
All right. In talking about the value of having a healthcare power of attorney, it occurs to me that sometimes legal aid gets very much involved with the community and educating the community. Mm-hmm. Are you aware of any specific community services in this area?
From time to time, there will be sort of learning events where legal aid will go out and educate the public on what these documents do, sort of similar to the discussion that we're having today, letting people know what the documents do and why they're important. In addition to that, there will be sort of will day events where people are able to that pre-qualify are able to come in and have these documents done. It's sort of a good way to help a lot of people at one time, and you'll see numerous events like these sort of throughout the state. You see advertised.
And we are talking really about basic wills where people do not have a lot of property, right?
That's correct. I mean, even though lots of people would term it as a basic will, everyone's circumstances are different. I mean, so you never know what kind of issues you're going to be addressing in there. I mean, well, yes, you might not need to worry about any sort of estate tax planning. I think it's still important to plan for where you want your assets to go.
I see. So. Sure. And finally, I was impressed by a project my clerk described to me, and it is in collaboration with Duke Hospital, and it also involves those students. I think that's a marvelous way of getting new students and lawyers, potential lawyers, to help people in need. And this one is called the Cancer Project. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, Christopher, I think we have reached the conclusion of our conversation today. I'm quite impressed by the collaboration between volunteer attorneys and legal aid in this area. Seniors, and I'm one of those, so many times have issues that are specific, and it's important to know that there is a project that handles that. Thank you so very much for your time. And for all of you that join us today, thank you. And I remind you to attend in the future conversations with Ruth, in which we will talk about other areas of practice of legal law.